Record on this. Good evening, Santa Fe. I am so happy to have you all join us this evening for the Santa Fe County Democratic Party hosted mayoral forum. I want to remind you all that Election Day is November 2nd and voting has already started. We are going to have our three candidates introduced at this moment, but we did receive notice at 4:45 this afternoon that one of the candidates, Alexis Martinez Johnson, chose to drop out of the race with charges and accusations of partisan, or no, out of the race. Oh yeah, oh, not out of the race, out of the forum. I apologize. Out of the forum with charges of accusations of partisan, and I don't know. So we're sorry we won't get to hear from her tonight. But we have tonight myself, I'm the chair of the Santa Fe Democratic Party, Roberto James Montoya, who is the on the state platform committee, the Democratic Party, Phyllis Bustamante, vice chair of Ward 4C, and Greg Sonnenfeld. He is the Congressional District 3 vice chair of the Democratic Party. I'd like to offer a brief introduction of what we will be doing this evening. So basically our program will start with 3 minutes for opening statements. The second part of our program will focus on a question and answer session where each candidate will be given the opportunity to answer questions that have been submitted by our audience members. In order to give the candidates some prep time, the broad category topics have been provided to them in advance. We hope to receive specific answers as our mayoral candidates have been given some more time to prep. And we're going to give you a little more time. So because of the fact that one of the individuals chickened out, and that's what I call it. If you're not going to stand up and have the opportunity to speak to viewers, then what can we say? All right. So with that, I am going to turn the program over to our rule expert, Greg Sonnenfeld. But after the question and answer session, each candidate will have a couple of minutes to give their closing statements. So Mr. Sonnenfeld, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ehil Koppler and Alan Weber. So I'll be keeping time and enforcing the rules during this forum. So to begin, during the question and answer sessions, each candidate will be given 2.5 minutes to answer the question unless otherwise stated. But do you want to expand that to 3.5 minutes, Bernadette?
Sure, absolutely.
So we're going to extra time, 3.5 minutes. Anyway, unless otherwise stated, a chime will sound when you have 15 seconds remaining. The chime will sound like this. If your time is up, we will thank you. You may be given a few seconds to finish your statement before muting the microphone. Speaking order has been determined in advance. We will be rotating speakers with a different candidate answering first for each question. We're going to ask that the candidates refrain from personal attacks, unsubstantiated criticism or accusations. We will allow respectful criticism of professional activities and policies, but we would prefer that you focus on substantive plans about how you're going to improve the city of Santa Fe. So if these rules are violated, your mic may be muted. You will be reminded of the rule and you may lose your remaining time. So I'm sure you guys will keep it clean. So sounds great. If you're in the audience, there's a chat bar. Please keep your comments professional and productive. If your comments are like rude or hateful, they may be deleted and you may be removed from the event. I'm sure all of you will, keep it clean. So sounds great. So I'm going to turn it over to Phyllis, who will lead us in the candidate introductions.
Okay, good evening. Welcome, everybody. So what do you guys think about the possibility of giving the introductions 4 minutes instead of 3?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so we will go ahead and allow the mayoral candidates to provide information. They shall state their qualifications. What do you intend to accomplish over the next 4 years? And why you are the best candidate to become mayor of Santa Fe. You each have 4 minutes, and we will go ahead and start with Mayor Weber.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. Thank you to the Democratic Party of Santa Fe and Chair Maduro. It's great to be with you, all the organizers, everyone who put it together, everyone in the Zoom room, and members of the Democratic Party who keep our party so strong. I am delighted to be here with a Zoom full of Democrats. I've been thinking a lot lately, not only about my qualifications to continue as your mayor, but also, since this is a Democratic forum, what makes me a Democrat? What makes all of us Democrats? And I think what it comes down to are values, our democratic values. As a party, as a community, we believe in the strength of unity, inclusivity, diversity, in a strong living wage, good, dignified jobs. We know that climate change is an existential threat, and we're committed to leaving the world and our city better than we found it. That's been my commitment as mayor. We believe in looking out for each other. We have each other's back. We believe in honoring and respecting all of our histories, all of our cultures, all of our families. These are, I think, the taproot of our democratic values, and they have been and continue to be the values of my administration, of my life, and of my campaign. We put people first. Most of all, those who are vulnerable, those who are at risk, those who most need the help of city government. We're the party that cares about respect. We care about taking care of people and community. That's what I've done as mayor. That's what I will continue to do in a second term. It's how we have guided our community through COVID, standing strong with the governor and ensuring that we've taken care of our community, putting out an emergency proclamation prohibiting evictions and water shutoffs citywide, supporting low-income families, those who have been most at risk. We mandated mask wearing to take care of each other and save lives. We secured $17.5 million from the state and our federal partners to help families in Santa Fe meet their most pressing needs, paying the rent, feeding their children, taking care of medical emergencies. We also stepped up and took care of our homeless neighbors. We set up an emergency homeless shelter at Midtown. We ensured that there was not one COVID death among our homeless population. And in so doing, we not only protected them, we prevented any super spreader events from going across the city. We created the most progressive budget in the history of Santa Fe, and we're getting real things done for the people of our city. We fully funded the Southside Teen Center, a project that's been an idea for decades, and with the help of Councilor Abeyta, we got it done. We broke ground on the public restrooms downtown. That's a project that's been discussed for centuries. We got it done. We stood up free Wi-Fi on the South Side, and we now provide Spanish translation for city meetings and all city materials. It's something we should have done years ago. We got it done. I implemented a project called Mayors for a Guaranteed Income that provides $400 a month for 100 families who are enrolled at the Santa Fe Community College and in need of short-term assistance. We're increasing the minimum wage for city workers to $15 an hour. That's a floor, not a ceiling. That's getting started. Are we doing everything right? No, of course not. We've made mistakes along the way, but we're walking and living our progressive democratic values. And I am very proud of the direction the city is headed. I'm proud of the team we've put together of top managers who work hard every single day for the people of Santa Fe and the people they lead to take care of our city, to make sure that we are the most sustainable community in America, to make sure that the city enjoys a high and consistent quality of life, to make sure that our kids will be able to live and work in this city.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Weber.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to the rest of the evening. Thanks for having me.
All right, I will move on to our next mayoral candidate, Joanne Vigil Koppler.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Councilor Joanne Vigil Koppler, and I'm very happy and proud to participate in this forum tonight. I want to say I've been a lifelong strong Democrat, and I have participated in the Democratic Party for many, many years, basically beginning in in and around 2006, where I really got more involved. I will say I have strongly participated in helping with events, have participated in ward meetings, have been a former ward chair. I have also been a treasurer for the Santa Fe Democratic Party. I served in that role for 5 years, took care of all of the financial responsibilities, most of the financial responsibilities, I should say. And then after my volunteerism was over, handed over the responsibility to Catherine Clark, who went on and did a great job as well. And I know that has continued. But I was very proud to be part of that process. In doing so, I met Democrats from across the state, Democrats internal to our Santa Fe County, and was a very proud member, and was very proud to organize the events that we had, some of which we still do today. I believe in the platform that the Democratic Party believes in, jobs, wages, employees' right to unionize, the values that we have along the way. And I will always be a strong Democrat. And I'm again, very, very happy to be here. I'll go on to say that I'm a born and raised Santa Fean. I've been a participant of this community all my life. I have achieved a master's degree in public administration from UNM, bachelor's degree from Eastern New Mexico University. I have taught as an adjunct professor for UNM in public administration, and have also had other teaching positions like at the Santa Fe Community College, where I taught subject matter in public administration, such as personnel management, when they used to call it personnel. But it's still the same. The functions are still the same. With regard to the unions, I'm very proud to say that I've been endorsed by our local city union, AFSCME, and I believe in the values and the platform that they have as well, and have done my job in supporting them for being treated in a fair manner. And I didn't vote for the furloughs, and I'm very proud to say that. So I also have a great deal of public service experience. I retired with 25 years of public service. I ran the first judicial district court in 3 counties and everything inside those courthouses. I was deputy director of the New Mexico Supreme Court. I was on 2 governors' transition teams. One was a staff member of 6 to hire all of the exempt positions for that governor and work to help him do that. I also served on the current governor's transition team to vet out the state personnel office and what was going on there. I served at as the state personnel board chair, appointed by a governor that I worked for. And I also have been HR director for the city of Santa Fe under 2 different mayors in separate spans of time, Los Alamos County, taxation and revenue under 2 different administrations. And so I've also served as chair of the Labor Management Relations Board for Northern New Mexico College. And some of the fun stuff I do, I served on the UNM Lobo Club board for 6 or 7 years and had a really fun role there. I am a qualifying broker. I'm involved in things that go on in our city with regard to property rights and such, which has a nice niche in city government. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Let's move on to now that introductions are done, we'll move on to the next portion of our forum. I believe Roberto.
Yes, this next question is related to the cleanliness of the city. And by the way, all the questions that we're preparing are based on questions that were submitted to us. They're not, so we compiled them. The number 1 issue raised by the constituent was related to the lack of city cleanliness, specifically trash, weeds, and debris all over our arroyos, medians, side streets around the plaza, and maintenance of city-owned properties such as the Marty Sanchez Golf Course. And the question for you first with Councilor Joanne Vigil Koppler, what will you do to make sure the city of Santa Fe is the cleanest in New Mexico?
Well, I'll start by just saying, I will do it. It has been done before. And I mentioned that I worked for the city before. We had a very professional management staff that took our city in its cleanliness very seriously. We had an oversight management of everything that went on in the city. As mayor, I will follow those same principles. And I believe that everything that the city does starts with fiscal management. So when you are taking care of fiscal management, you're taking care of city taxpayer dollars, you tend to be more focused and you tend to prioritize. And I would venture to say that I've never seen the city look worse. And that is the number one complaint that I get from constituents. And so as mayor, certainly I will hire the most qualified people to do the jobs that are at hand. I will hire people who know how to manage, and I will pay attention to the cleanliness of the city because, having lived here all this time, I'm aghast at what I see. I do believe that it starts with having a budget that prioritizes those things, as we did when I worked for the city. The goal then was to have the city be as clean as it could be because we paid attention to it. What gets measured gets done. And so we measured what was going on. There were ways that we did that, and I was a part of that. Human resources in those days were more of organizational development and assistance to departments and assistance anywhere that we could be. We had time to do that, as well as the other duties that we did because we professionalized and streamlined. So my goal is to have the city on the south side, Airport Road, all the way down to the very tip of the south side be as clean and beautiful as we have on the north and east sides. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. And I know we can do it with sound, prudent fiscal management, budgeting, and setting priorities. It has been done in the past, and it will be done again.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
Now the mayor gets the chance to answer the same question.
Thank you very much. I think we all have very high expectations for Santa Fe. It is the state capital. It's the oldest capital in America, and we have a great deal of pride in our home and in how it looks. I agree that what gets measured is what gets done. That's why when I took office, I noticed that there were 1,200 complaints that had been logged over 8 years that had not been answered. Those are the conditions that I inherited as mayor. Since then, we have been keeping very close records about the kinds of complaints, concerns, and objections that people have, and responding with a customer response system that gives people the opportunity to put in their complaint and then track how quickly and effectively it gets answered. And there is a great deal of concern about the city's appearance. I know that as mayor, I take my responsibility of setting an example, personal example, very seriously. That's why 2 weeks ago, when it was Tas No Mas, I was out picking up litter and cutting down weeds on the south side. When we cleaned up Harrison Road, I was there cleaning up Harrison Road. The job of the mayor is not only to have other people do the work, it's to be out there doing the work, him or herself. The truth is we're coming out of COVID. COVID had put a huge dent in the city budget. And so for an entire year, we had 5 workers in our parks department cleaning up the weeds. I know that because about 2 months ago, Melissa McDonald, our parks director, and I took breakfast burritos out to our crew at Tierra Contenta, where they were working at 7 a.m. They'd gotten up before dawn to start cutting down weeds to get there before there was traffic. When I gave them each a breakfast burrito, they were so proud of the work they were doing because they cared as much as we care about how our city and their city looks. Currently, we have 10 people cutting weeds, and by Friday, we'll have another 8 cutting weeds and cleaning up, picking up litter. So we are working very hard to make up for lost time that was really a reflection of budget constraints and fiscal conservatism, trying to make sure we didn't run the city in a bad financial condition. We're also tracking the data. The current largest complaint we're getting through the customer response system is about shopping carts. And so as of 2 weeks ago, we now have a vendor picking up shopping carts and returning them to their rightful position. We're picking up 200 shopping carts a week. Since last March, more data, we've filled 400 potholes citywide. My plan going forward, very simply, is to use the fact that we are experiencing a phenomenal GRT rebound. We're hiring, we're filling empty vacancies in the city government. We're hiring outside contractors where that's our best option. And we're going to continue next year with a GRT bond to continue to fill potholes and pave streets. But I take seriously and am very, very convinced that we can and will staff up to keep the city clean, cut the weeds, and make sure that Santa Fe is a beautiful capital that we all can be proud of.
Thank you so much, Mayor Weber.
Okay, so the next question is about new infrastructure and the maintenance of existing city-owned infrastructures. We received questions about and related to the care and maintenance of existing city structures, specifically the Ferguson Library and Lafarge Library, Marty Sanchez Golf Course, Greer Garson Theater, and the Bicentennial Swimming Pool. Santa Feans want to know why these have not been kept in good operating condition and why the city believes it can commit to spending more money on new structures. And in this question, who goes first? Mayor
I believe it would be Mayor Weber this time.
I believe I get the first bite at this one. Thank you. We have a very significant backlog in infrastructure maintenance and upkeep. And that is simply a reflection of the fact that the city has a lot of buildings and historically not committed the dollars for maintenance and upkeep of those facilities. We are now in a position with a very talented management staff led by Regina Wheeler, our Director of Public Works, to have a very thoughtful approach to investment in our civic infrastructure. But you got to remember, as we make commitments going forward, they're not just about buildings. They're about what the buildings represent to the people of Santa Fe. For example, Bicentennial Pool is a favorite of families across generations. That's why we found $2 million to fix Bicentennial Pool starting in the fall, so it'll be ready to open in time for next swimming season. We just broke ground on the South Side Teen Center. But that's not just about a teen center. It's about a commitment to our young people, most of whom live on the South Side, who've been promised for more than a decade that their city cared about them and believed in them. And yet, until I put $1 million in my budget as mayor, the city had not put financial backing into a demonstration of our love for and commitment to our young people. We broke ground on the teen center. We broke ground on the downtown bathroom. That was promised not for decades, but for longer than that. We're a tourist city, and yet families that come downtown with their children and visitors have never had a public restroom until we broke ground on it last month. We are about to finish the bid process for upgrading the airport. Here again, we're a tourist center, and we need people to be able to fly in and out of Santa Fe. The pricing of flying in and out of our airport is now competitive with Albuquerque, but the airport needs to be upgraded. We've got $2 million we just committed to roads and streets and resurfacing. And we are in a position to issue a bond next year for more facilities upgrades. A lot of what was mentioned in the question has to do with Midtown, and we will be moving forward on Midtown with another question, I know. But the fact is that we have money to upgrade the Ferguson Library. We've got money to build and help support affordable housing on the Midtown campus. It's really about using our capital assets wisely, getting rid of the ones that are not productive, consolidating them into fewer buildings, taking better care of them, making them more accessible and easy for the residents of Santa Fe to use and to enjoy. And that's a commitment for my next term.
Oh, thank you. On time.
Excellent. And now we'll go to Councilor Vigil Koppler.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the question. You know, I have to jump in here and say that many of these programs were funded by the legislature not single-handedly by the mayor. Many of these the city council voted on and prioritized as well. We rarely get credit for that, but that is our responsibility as well. The legislature deserves much credit for funding the teen center. This has been on our legislative map with these funds ever since I've been on city council. The bathrooms have been on ever since I've been a city councilor. This has almost been 4 years. And so the airport is one funding which the House Speaker is very concerned about, that we have not done anything with those funds, and very recently in the last 2 weeks has brought it up again. There are many cities who would like this money. If the city's not going to spend it, then it's vulnerable. And we have been put on notice of that. So I would say these are all very important projects to the city. I believe in them. I was part of voting for them. And I think they're very important, especially when you talk about the airport. That's important to economic development, which is one of my priorities. With regard to the question, I mean, Greer Garson, Fogelson Library, yes, those are all part of Midtown. And Midtown has somehow taken a turn, I think, to slow down. I don't believe that we're getting much further than we were. I had hoped we would continue the process that we spent all those years on and go back to the people who were interested in developing, being the master developers for Midtown. Meanwhile, the city is attempting to do something with it, but we have very high turnover. We have turnover in staff. Same thing, you know, with all these projects. Midtown Links, we have been put on notice by the former superintendent that things were very bad there, but we lost our MRC director, who was also very talented and knowledgeable about how to maintain the golf course. And it's not just drought, it's a scientific process that you have to pay attention to. And you know, I think it's important. I was working at the city when we developed the concept of Midtown. I can still remember where all of the holes were going to go, and everybody was very excited about that. Now they're not as excited because, you know, it's wearing down, and I think it's important to fix it. The bicentennial pool, we had noticed that pool had a crack in it, and for some reason it wasn't addressed. Yes, we were in COVID. That would have been a great time to fix it. The pool was empty. It wasn't summertime yet, and nothing was done. I know that staff brought it to the attention of the department directors that needed to know about it. So a lot of this is prior notice, but
Thank you.
part of it is our fiscal responsibility for making things happen.
Oh, thanks so much.
Okay, our third question is a little bit more specific to the issue of the College of Santa Fe, currently referred to as Midtown Campus, and its transition to a functioning city center. We'll ask each of you to provide information on your visions and implementation plans to ensure maximum community utilization of that space. And it'll go to Joanne Koppler.
Thank you. I will say that, first of all, I would encourage each of you to take your car, take a drive through the Midtown campus right now. Go take a look at what's happened to that campus. It's one thing to develop it, but it's another thing to show the neglect that it has. And I've been there a few times. People that I know have been through there a few times. It is very neglected. It is a little community in itself. I think it's a microcosm of what's happening in Santa Fe when people complain about the cleanliness of our city, the weeds, the apathy that seems to have gone on there, the lack of attention, out of sight, out of mind. I have never seen the Midtown campus look so neglected and not cared for. And so I think it's important to, it's still a city facility, city facilities within. It's an important piece of property. And as we develop or go through the process of what is going to happen there, I think we need to pay attention. I think we need to cut the weeds, for one. I think we need to have some care and responsibility and improve the neglect that's going on. So You know, I envision, first of all, I'll go back to my statement. I hope that we would go back to the professionals who know how to do this. So I would go back to the public engagement that we had years ago to determine what the public wanted. I do want to see affordable housing in there. I have mentioned that and sat in on meetings to make sure that wasn't forgotten. I would like to see a city center. I would like to see Fogelson Library become a state-of-the-art library. And I would also like to see Greer Garson maintained and used as a drama, a facility for film, and be used in a very productive way that it is now in the uses that it can have. So the city doesn't need to be involved as it is right now in developing this process. We have so much to do. Planning and land use has their hands full. We have vacancies in there. And I don't believe that we need to be in the business of developing the Midtown campus in the way that we are. There are professionals that do that. There are professionals that have expressed a great interest in helping us do that. And we had 2 of them that were left when the first choice pulled out. So I think we need to go back and take a look at them. They spent a great deal of money preparing their proposals, and I think they're worthy.
Oh, thank you so much. And we'll move to Mayor Weber, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I think Midtown is the future of Santa Fe. It is a phenomenal opportunity for our community to realize so many of our aspirations in a location that is the geographic center of Santa Fe. And in fact, it is a place with tremendous opportunity. Envision a place where there is affordable housing, where there are opportunities for our young people to gain skills in digital entertainment and video production, where the Garson studios are filled with teeming opportunities to make shows, TV, video, movies, games, where there's the library has become a real center of learning and community engagement, where there's open space, where there's parks. The Native community has come forward with a proposal for a powwow center there. Others have advocated a rebuilding of a Paolo Soleri-like outdoor entertainment and performance space. There's a great emphasis on sustainability, on water capture, reusable energy, and sustainable economic development that doesn't gentrify the adjacent neighborhoods. Those are some of the things we're working for. And just this last weekend, there were a series of community engagement sessions at the HEC Center. I was there. I know Councilor Vihil-Coppler didn't manage to make it by to participate in those engagement programs, but we had people from the South Side. Miguel Acosta brought a group of young people, and we had consultants and city staffers answering questions and taking input from our community. That input will now lead to a really strong proposal for a master plan, and after the first of the year, a rezoning of the entire Midtown space so that we can begin to entertain proposals from developers. The councilor's statement that the city is acting as a developer is simply factually incorrect. We are not the developer. We're merely setting up the stage for development by going through the master planning and the rezoning that'll make it possible for people who want to build affordable housing or add new community education opportunities to participate on that amazing campus facility. What have we done so far? We set the stage for all of this, and we had a proposal from a very good developer. Their business plan got hit by COVID, and all of their business model got turned upside down. It called for things like a boutique hotel and office space, none of which made economic sense in the teeth of COVID. Now we're doing more community outreach. We're hearing from people who want their input to be heard. We are getting great community feedback, and there will be a vision worth developing, and it will also trigger development along St. Mike's and along that corridor. It'll be a huge asset for the city.
Thank you, Mayor Weber.
Thank you.
All
So-
right. going to the next question here. We're going to be talking about, oh, it's Roberto's turn to talk. Okay, Roberto, you go. Sorry.
Okay, so the next question is related to city service complaints. Since COVID, city officials have become very isolated, making it very difficult to communicate with city officials. This has made it difficult to obtain city approvals on things such as building permits and other city services. What can be done to streamline and improve access to city officials and to improve city services in general? And starting with Mayor Weber.
Thank you for the question.
3 minutes.
You know, those are really two interesting but slightly different questions. One has to do with responsiveness to our community and our residents who want their problems resolved. The other has to do with how do we do a better job with permits and with a specific part of our city, which is the land use department. You know, I mentioned earlier, when I became mayor, there was a backlog of 1,200 complaints from our residents that had not been responded to for 8 years, for 8 years. We are now able to have a website where people can put in their own complaints, locate them on a map, and track their progress. We got, in the last 45 days, we got 1,000 community complaints or concerns that we've responded to. I personally take it very seriously. I respond to the emails that come to the mayor's office as an individual. I try to get back to everybody as rapidly and as thoroughly as I can, because I believe the mayor needs to be a full-time, full-service mayor. I think the voice of our community is the most important voice there is. We aim to serve you. The city government works for you. That is the fundamental value of our community and of the Democratic Party. We don't always get it right. Sometimes we give answers that people are unhappy with, but we've put in a much more responsive mechanism, the CRM system that addresses constituent concerns. We've also implemented a new kiosk in our libraries and other public buildings, similar to what you see with the motor vehicle department, where after you have an experience, you can rate it, happy, not happy, because we take seriously the feedback of our community and of our residents. Going forward, we've got money in the budget for a neighborhood engagement person in our community engagement team to go out and meet with neighborhoods and people who are members of neighborhood associations, so we learn about problems before they really become a crisis. It's an early warning system, a listening system to get closer to and in greater touch with the people in our community. As far as the land use department is concerned, we've made significant improvements since when I became mayor. Before I became mayor, the land use director was not only the land use director, but had a private architectural firm on the side. I don't know how you have time to do both, because land use is so important. The future of Santa Fe runs through land use. Last year, despite COVID, our land use department was able to issue 1,000 new housing permits through an e-permitting system, because in our first 2 years, we implemented a brand new technology platform that brought Santa Fe into the 21st century when it comes to systems, hardware, and software. We need to continue to invest in those modernization efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Vigil Koppler.
Thank you. There's a deep concern among people who are invested in developing in Santa Fe, whether they be a single homeowner who wants to do a renovation or a big developer who wants to do a major project. Recently, the Santa Fe Realtors Association was so concerned about this that they conducted a survey of people who use the planning and land use department. And here's some of what they said. In general, those who hired consultants who have developed relationships with city staff expressed the highest level of expectations on a positive level. However, the rest of the comments were, the division does not operate with the customer service orientation. They seem to lack urgency regarding inquiries on requests, non-responsiveness, even pre-COVID, but COVID had made it more problematic. A project can languish for weeks without any communication from staff. Lost applications or files, invention of restrictions when none existed, pushing the need for legal review or action, and strong recognition by many of the department it's understaffed. I mentioned that earlier. Others noted that there remain some disparities among staff in their level of technical proficiency. Higher level staff appear more likely to work to solve problems, while rank and file don't seem to be invested in resolving issues. Code interpretations are generally more restrictive if there is a level of ambiguity. Delays, and especially placing an applicant in contractual default with significant project delays, occur. Project delay costs were noted for an owner of up to $20,000 a month, and for a developer at $40,000 a month. It can take 10 months to do a lot split. Meanwhile, there's not a transparent process of tracking approvals and building permits. Many found that the building permit process is inadequate, along with the antiquated cashier system. Inspectors can act capriciously, seeming to nitpick a project, and may demand opportunistic improvements or changes on site that were not required for approval. Projects seem to be priced fairly, but smaller projects can be fairly significantly expensive. These are just some of the comments that were made by people who go through the planning and land use department. Now, that's a majority of complaints that I get. I get a lot of those complaints. And I have said, I will make a commitment to go into the planning and land use department and manage the whole thing and get it to where it's more transparent and where the public is the first customer service responsibility of anyone who works there.
Thank you so much, Councillor Vihel-Koppler.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
so
our next
now,
question.
okay, I'm up, and the question that I have is a really important one for me as a 10th generation Santa Fean. It's about Santa Fe's small city characteristics, growth, water, and the affordable housing crisis. Santa Fe is one of the top destinations in the world for travelers. We offer natural beauty, a rich cultural diversity, great weather, and a small town feeling. Yet many of our local residents are struggling to survive due to the lack of affordable housing and the lack of significant water resources. How will you manage and balance these issues? And the first question will go to Mayor Weber.
I think I answered the last question.
Yeah. So I think in this order, it will be Councillor Vihel-Koppler. And we're also giving 3.5 minutes for this question, so you can take a little bit longer. Thank you.
Well, having been born and raised here, I have seen Santa Fe, I've seen it grow tremendously. I've seen St. Francis Drive when it was a 2-lane highway. And then when it was a 4-lane highway, there were no stoplights. The first stoplight was Cordova Road. I've seen where St. Francis Drive ended at St. Michael's Drive. And if you went any further, you would crash into a mountain. And so I've seen where Yucca Street, at where Santa Fe High School was the dirt road all the way south. There was nothing beyond Santa Fe High School. There were a few homes and coyotes. And then now we still have coyotes, and we have more homes. So, growth has been managed in Santa Fe, and I think certainly we owe credit to a lot of the our forefathers that were mayors and city councilors along the way who made some good decisions. Having grown up here and been involved in the process, there are always concerns by neighbors and neighborhoods, and rightly so. But I think what they want is they want planned growth. And we have a land use code that is antiquated. We have a master plan that was last redone in 1999. And so we're still working off those documents, which really a lot of parts of it don't apply anymore. So we really need to get a handle on the planning and zoning processes that we have now, because many times they conflict with one another. So that's how you manage growth. You make sure that you have rules to go by, and that they are rules that have everything in mind with smart growth. So that's one of the things that I will make sure to get going and get accomplished. And so the other part of it is I've been an advocate for affordable housing for a long time. I want to be clear, affordable housing doesn't mean low income, and low income isn't necessarily a bad word either. But we do need places for everyone to live who wants to live here and who works here, because it does affect our economic development when we don't have homes for people who work here to live in, because then they go to other cities where they live more affordably and spend the money that Santa Fe pays them, Santa Fe businesses, City of Santa Fe, and they spend it in those other cities, thereby contributing to their economic development well-being. We do need to have places for people to live. And then we need to readjust our zoning. We need to offer higher density in areas that can permit it and areas that can withstand it. And we need to not be afraid of that. We have to have housing for everyone. And it's the right thing to do. And people do need to live in our city. They want to live in our city. So that is an important thing for us. The city council has passed monies that go toward the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. There's other measures that can be undertaken to do that. But the fee in lieu of also funds that. And I think it's important for the city to really do more in advertising to people who want to either get rental assistance or down payment assistance, that fund is available.
Thank you, Councilor Vihil Coppler. And Alan Weber, 3.5 minutes.
Thank you. I think this is one of the most significant issues facing the city, and certainly the highest priority in my second term. And that is, how do we preserve and protect what makes Santa Fe so special, the unique character and quality of life, while at the same time adding more housing for people across the spectrum. We need to maintain our diversity. We need to be a city where everyone can afford to live. Anyone who works here should be able to live here. And that really is the challenge of leadership for my next administration. We've been working on it steadfastly over the last 3.5 years. The first thing I did when I became mayor was to appoint a task force to look at our housing and livable neighborhood policies. We brought immediately an accessory dwelling unit ordinance to the city council. I was told it would never pass. And what happened was, young people came into the city council meeting and said, if you want young people to live in our city, work in our city, grow in our city, put down roots in our city, and raise their families in the city, we need accessory dwelling units. We passed that measure. We cracked down on short-term rentals, which my colleague, Councilor Vihil Coppler, voted against. Those short-term rentals were turning our neighborhoods into Swiss cheese. We needed to make sure that we protected the livability and quality of life of our existing neighborhoods. I proposed, and the council approved, $6 million in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We'll have another $3 million in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund next year. I put in the budget that was adopted for this year, $200,000 for a comprehensive growth management study, the first one in the city's history, because the issue of balancing more affordable housing with sustainability is the heart and soul of Santa Fe. We have done a lot of work on water. You mentioned that in your question. Since 1995, the city population has grown by 25%. Our water use has declined by 33%. We're doing a very strong job of diversifying our water portfolio and making sure that developers who want to build housing bring water to the table. But the question of who lives in Santa Fe is, I think, the heart and soul of the matter. There are cities that have priced people out of their communities. There are cities that have made it possible for everybody to live here. I believe that renters are just as valuable as homeowners. My opponent, Councilor Vihil Coppler, has said that people who are renters don't make real homes, and that developers who build affordable housing dumb down those developments. I grew up in a family where my mom and dad were renters, and I can assure you the home they made for my brother and me were just as good as the homes made by people who were homeowners. If we want everybody to be able to live in this city, we need to respect renters as well as homeowners and make sure that young people, seniors, others who want to live here, work here, and grow here are welcome. Santa Fe is fundamentally a welcoming city for everybody, and we need housing and sustainability that works for everybody. In my 3 years as mayor, we have permitted almost 2,500 housing units, most
Thank
of
you.
them multifamily.
Thank you for that, Mr. Weber, or
Thank
Mayor
you.
Weber.
Hey, I apologize. I'm not hearing your alarm go off. Otherwise,
Oh,
I'd stop.
know,
soon.
my apologies too if my alarm's not loud enough. I'll see if I can hold it closer.
Okay, I'm not trying to run over, but the alarm isn't ringing in my ear.
Okay, moving on to our sixth question, and this is also regarding growth of Santa Fe. So to the candidates, how do you envision reducing the economic polarity and bringing in good paying jobs, not just service industry jobs, and keeping young adults in Santa Fe and creating a city that is accessible to families and the middle class?
3 minutes, Mayor Weber.
Thank you. Again, I think this is a great follow-up question to the one we just addressed, which is housing and sustainability. This has to do with making sure that the people who live and work in Santa Fe are of all walks of life, and it's a welcoming and a welcoming city where people can afford to live regardless of their particular job. We're diversifying the economy. This afternoon, before this debate, before this forum, I was at a meeting of entrepreneurs at the Violet Crown. There must have been 40 young people who are starting businesses in Santa Fe. We now know that Meow Wolf is not only back, they're back bigger than ever, and they're hiring people to live and work and grow and stay in Santa Fe. We're working with the community college to train people for those good middle income jobs. And my program, Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, has made it possible for 100 families, young families dealing with economic stress, to get a $400 a month stipend so they don't have to choose between paying for their education at the community college or paying to feed their family. We're seeing more jobs grow with better pay and more opportunity. I proposed, and I'm sure the council will approve, making the minimum wage for city employees $15 an hour. And that's a floor, not a ceiling. We have to be able to pay people what they're worth. I'm a strong, strong supporter of our living wage. My opponent, Councilor Vihil-Coppler, has said she wants to study the living wage, which we all know is political speak for, I don't really support it, I just want to look at it. I think going forward, the living wage needs to be strengthened and increased because the cost of living continues to increase. We want good jobs with good wages, with good benefits. That's why IATSE has endorsed me. That's why the Carpenters Union has endorsed me. It's why the Sierra Club has endorsed me. And I'm proud to say that as of today, Planned Parenthood has endorsed me because I speak for a broad cross-section of the people who live, work, and put down roots in Santa Fe.
Oh, thank you so much. And Councilor Vihil-Coppler.
Thank
3
you.
minutes.
Thank you very much. I would like to go to some statements that were made regarding this question and others. And will say that I have never said I would study minimum wage. I don't know where the mayor's getting that, but I really have to say that as an HR professional, I've always been for employee pay and fairness and equity. And I totally believe in the living wage and the minimum wage. And I've not been involved in any studies, nor have I proposed to conduct any studies on it. So, I have to just clear the record on that. With regard to families and living, having a place to live, homeownership is the American dream. And when a measure came before the city council to use city land on Alta Street, which I support, we have an opportunity here to build units that are for purchase. And in that discussion, there was not a clear answer that these wouldn't be rentals. And the statement I made and intended because that's where my heart is. I believe that homeownership is the American dream because it provides stability in communities. It provides civic values. It provides long-term places for children to live with their parents or their parent. And that increases financial security. If we continue to just provide rentals, we are not really addressing home ownership and affordable housing for families who can take advantage of the programs that are offered through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That is down payment assistance for those that qualify, and there are several tiers that a family or one single person can qualify to get into home ownership. Many people don't know that that is a dream for them, and if they can't do that, then they can work toward credit worthiness or loan qualifications. Maybe it'll take a year or two, but it can happen. And I think that rentals are very, very good places to live, but you need stability in families. And this question is about families, and home ownership is really a goal. And I did ask the city council that night, raise your hand if you would trade your home to rent, and nobody did. That's because people value their homes, and we all have homes. So I think if we're going to donate city property, the first goal should be to provide homes that those that are qualified for the programs can purchase. It goes a long way towards sustainability. And that is really a big effect and a big impact on families and our economy. As I said earlier, if they live here and work here, they'll spend their money here. And that all relates to this question. That's my goal. I'll work toward affordable housing that provides both options to use the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The other thing
Councillor Vihil Coupler, that's the 3
I'm
minutes.
sorry, I did not hear your ringer either.
Oh yeah, I'll find a new chime. How about that? So
And do this, time out.
I believe we're going to Roberto.
Yes, so the next two-part question is related to environmental stewardship and renewable energy. So climate change is one of the most discussed items in politics today. Climate change will disproportionately affect Santa Fe, increasing drought, causing extreme weather events, and
We're getting an echo.
I know, I don't know
Can
why.
everyone mute their mics if they're not currently muted? I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone, so just in case. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start from the gate. Climate change is one of the most discussed issues in politics today. Climate change will disproportionately affect Santa Fe, increasing drought, causing extreme weather events, and exposing Santa Fe to increased risk of wildfire. Do you plan to address these challenges? And the second part of the question is, do you have a plan to aid efforts to combat climate change? Would you encourage a city towards the adoption of electric vehicles, installation of solar charging station, increased energy efficiency standards, or similar policies? And this question goes first to Councillor Coupler.
Right, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. So yes, absolutely. I think we definitely need to continue to work on those goals. The city council has passed measures that recognize that drought is occurring. We have a water staff that has prepared a drought water plan, a drought plan. We've done things like install solar on city buildings, including the BDD facility. I think we need to work more toward electric vehicles, and I've no doubt that that can happen. That will be part of my administration. We need to build more sustainable, energy efficient homes, and I know that our land use code provides that now. And I think we need to take a look at that with the measures that I talked about earlier in planning and land use and zoning changes. We need to make sure that they're that they address the issues that need to be addressed with regard to climate change. We need to pay attention and continue to support forest cleanup around homes, especially in our mountainous areas, so that we don't contribute to wildfires. We have coordinated with the Santa Fe County and the federal government and their wildland firefighting. The city has a wildland firefighting unit, and they have also assisted in helping communities within the area of Santa Fe, neighborhoods, I should say, take care and give them advice on how to do cleanups around their house. That's a very important thing that the city does. I commend all firefighters for having the foresight and the wherewithal and the training to help get that done. It's really important. We're very lucky that we haven't experienced the fires that we have on the West Coast. Generally, they start there, although that's not just restricted to there. But, you know, we need to be prepared in all areas. Climate change is important. Climate change needs to be addressed in practically, and well, everything we do. There are new ways of doing things, and we need to think outside the box and continue to contribute to that. We have done flood control in our arroyos. We're not finished yet, but that when we had that major flood, that I think that made us realize that, gee, we saw where some of the deficiencies were, and the city has done some good work in controlling and preparing arroyos and embankments to withstand any future floods. And we did get a lot of comments and complaints. We assisted homeowners who lost portions of their backyard.
Oh, 15 seconds.
We did a great deal of assistance with them, and I certainly would continue that in my administration. So let me see if I've left anything out, but you know, it's
Oh, that's time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I think this is, again, it blends in with the other questions we've had about growing gracefully, providing for diversity in our community, and making sure we have a sustainable Santa Fe. Climate change is an existential threat. And I've been leading toward a much more sustainable future over the last 3.5 years. We are a LEED Gold certified city, one of the first in the country. And we've developed our own Santa Fe Green New Deal that will lead us to carbon neutrality by 2040. Just yesterday, I was in an event, the Solarized Santa Fe event, in partnership with the public schools, with PNM, with a solar provider, so that 50 homes, low-income homeowners, will be able to solarize their homes, reduce their carbon footprint, and have lower utility bills. We are on track to have 50% of our electricity powered by clean energy by 2025. We've started already, and we're not waiting. We've already started to transfer our fleet to electric vehicles, and we adopted a plan to swap out 9,000 streetlights to energy efficient fixtures. That's the equivalent of getting 10,000 cars off the road while protecting the city's night sky. So we're really focusing hard on sustainability as a core value of Santa Fe. The environment is not something out there. Here in Santa Fe, the environment is where and how we live. This has been a community of sustainability and conservation forever, from the beginning, and we are continuing that tradition. We are proposing a new water pipeline that will increase our use of our available water from less than 50% to 100%. And in the future, we will be using every single drop of water because we'll be required to do that in order to have a sustainable city. Water is life. We all know that's true. Now, I would point out another difference between my opponent and me is I've argued very consistently that we need to do that streetlight swap. And we have worked with the community. We got great community input, and it improved the quality of our streetlight plan. My opponent voted for the streetlight initially, and then later voted against it. Once again, being on both sides of the issue. I don't think sustainability and climate change is something where you can be on both sides of the issue. We are absolutely leading the country when it comes to our approach to a sustainable Santa Fe. It's water, it's electricity, it's transportation, and it's a green new deal for Santa Fe that we've proposed and we are now implementing.
Oh, thank you so much, Mayor Weber.
So our next question has to do with building an inclusive community citywide. and the Committee of Culture, History, Art, Reconciliation, and Truth. And we're going to give you 4 minutes each for this because it is a contentious issue that has occurred. We've witnessed the divisions and the fracturing of community between different racial groups within our city. Statues have been removed and how they were removed. And I would like to know what you believe will be the outcome of this chart committee, and how you're going to begin healing the community so we can pull people together. And the question goes first to who, Greg? Okay.
I believe it's Weber. 4
It's
minutes.
my turn to start
Lots of
this. And
time.
this is really a question about our progressive values as a city. And I am proud to be a progressive mayor and somebody who believes in the progressive values of the Democratic Party and the progressive values that make Santa Fe such a special place. Look, Santa Fe's history is the oldest and the most complex and the most glorious of any city in America. And that's what's magical about Santa Fe. It's why we're all proud to call this city our home. And it's really marked by the ways in which all of our different cultures come together with mutual respect. We're a progressive community. We believe in looking out for each other and taking care of each other. We believe in honoring and respecting our history and our cultures and our families. But recently, over the course of the last year, in part, I think because President Trump made it an acceptable way to be, our community has had angry and disrespectful voices. When I became mayor, I was confronted with the issue of the Entrada. For a year, we met in the mayor's office with representatives of all parts of our community, and the Caballeros, to their credit, voted to retire the Entrada because they recognized it really didn't represent what was the best of Santa Fe. Across America, we've seen statues and monuments debated. We saw a shooting in Albuquerque around a statue. We have been much better than that. We've been able to settle our differences respectfully with dialogue and with engagement. And we must not let anger and division divide us. We mustn't let the Trump spirit of them versus us become the spirit of Santa Fe. Now, my opponent, Councilor Vihil-Coppler, has said many times she was born here. I was not born here. That wasn't my choice. I didn't get a vote. My parents were in St. Louis and I was born there. But I did get here as quickly as I could, and this is my home, and this is where my wife and I will live the rest of our lives. It's a place where we've invested our time, our energy, our commitment, and our values. And I know that Santa Fe is a welcoming community. Many people on this call, like me, weren't born here. And whether you were born here 16 or more generations ago, as Deb Holland likes to point out, she goes back beyond 16 generations. It doesn't really matter when you got here. Our community welcomes you, and you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity and open arms, and that's how we treat people here. I also come from a family, if we're being factual about our own personal histories, my family experienced bigotry and anti-Semitism. I know history. I know my own history, and I know the history of Santa Fe. We've witnessed what happens when hatred and division takes over. We were a place where there was a Japanese American internment camp. In the 1950s, there were subdivisions built in Santa Fe where people of color were not allowed to buy a home. They had to be out by sundown in those neighborhoods. We need to talk about that. That's not who Santa Fe is. And yet, if we ignore it and pretend that it isn't part of our history, we paper it over, we're no better than any other community that pretends that racism doesn't exist. What's going on across America and what must happen in Santa Fe is a choice. Will we go down the path of division and anger, of them versus us? Will we claim that some people are true locals and other people aren't? Or will we embrace everybody who lives here? And will we embrace what makes us a special community? I think the chart process is an opportunity for democracy to work. We need to talk and listen and learn from each other.
Thank you. All right, I guess 4 minutes. We're going to move on to Councillor Vigil Koppler. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. It is true. I was born and raised here, and I certainly welcome everybody who's here now, because I know there's everyone who lives here cares about this community, or they wouldn't be living here. And we do need to be inclusive of everyone's beliefs, values, cultures, traditions, and such. The thing that I think helps me, and I know because I grew up here, is that we all coexisted in a respectful, respected manner of each other, of each other's values, of each other's cultures. And we didn't have the kind of division that we have now. And it did start, for me anyway, with the fact that one June night last year, there was an attempt to take down the Soldiers Monument without any discussion by the city council. That in itself was, I think, a travesty. We had an opportunity to provide leadership to our city and to quell maybe some of the issues that were going on had we known about them. But we didn't know about them. We didn't know what the mayor might have been told by those who were not happy with the monument. There was never a discussion or a special meeting or an emergency meeting called. That's leadership. That could have happened. And it has happened with prior councils, because I know, and you know, this isn't the first time this has come up. This came up in the 70s, and the city council, the mayor at the time, provided leadership, had the city council discuss it. They determined they were going to remove it, and then they changed course because it is a nationally protected monument with rules and regulations about what you can do with it and how it has, what are the rules for it to stay on the plaza. So I knew that. I grew up knowing that. Nevertheless, we missed an opportunity to discuss it as a governing body, the leaders of this community. I don't think that we are better off now than we were 4 years ago with regard to this, to what has occurred in our city. We are so divided right now, and I believe that that one night and what happened and everything that happened since then has divided our community more than I have ever seen it. And you all know, you read the papers, there's just so much acrimony right now. And I do think that we need to let CHART go to the end of its term to see if we can manage any of this. But there's not a lot of trust right now going on in this administration for spearheading this. There was divisiveness and certainly lots of opinions among our community just about the existence of CHART and how that was going to happen, who were the people on it, and so on. But it is right now taking its course. I think we need to let it work out and see where we go. But I can't let it go that this community is divided, and I think it was because of a lack of leadership from the very beginning. In my administration, I will involve the council in all of these decisions. That's what leaders do. We as a group have to lead this city. It's not just a one-man show. And the things that I have seen happening, not only on my term, but in the last few months, there's a lot of credit by one person on this forum without
15
regard
seconds.
to the other 8 members who have an ordinance required responsibility, a charter responsibility to lead this city together. But I will heal those divisions because I know how to work with people. I know how to lead.
Thank you, Councillor Vigil Koppler. So I believe, Bernadette, you were thinking about adding a 9th question. That was one of your questions, but I'm going to give it to Bernadette here.
Thank you so much. What I would like to do right now is I would like to ask each of the candidates to go ahead and ask each other a question that they would like to have a response to. So we'll go ahead and start with Councillor Vigil Koppler. You may ask a question.
How
2
much time do you
minutes.
want to give these 2 minutes?
2 minutes. We'll
All
give
right.
for the response. So you may ask the mayor any question that you'd like, and then he can ask you any question that he would like. All right?
Thank you. Mayor Weber, I would like you to give a summary of what this last fiscal audit that just recently got turned into the state auditor, what are its contents, and where does the city fare with our fiscal responsibility? What are the findings in that audit, and what financial findings have been repeated from the last late audit, which the state auditor said if the city didn't get its act together, that the state auditor would take over the city finances?
Well, thank you for the question, Counselor. As you should know, I'm not allowed to answer that question because you can't reveal what's in the audit until the Office of the State Auditor releases that audit. I would expect you to know that, or you wouldn't have asked the question. I can tell you, because you've asked the question previously, why the audit was late this year, that there are very good reasons, and the chair of our audit committee has spoken out about it very eloquently. The points are very clear. We were given $17.5 million because of the outstanding job we did responding to COVID, including passing a mask ordinance that you voted against. And we had to get that $17.5 million out onto the street in 3 months. That took our staff a lot of work rather than producing the audit. We implemented a new modern software piece of technology, bringing the city into a much more modern and professional financial tracking system. That took some work. Because of COVID, the finance department was understaffed to the tune of about 30%. That meant we were going more slowly. And we also had people who came down with COVID, and we had people who were unable to work because of COVID. As a result of that, the audit has been late. It is now in the hands of the Office of the State Auditor. If I were to answer your question, I would be in violation of the audit practices, and therefore we'd get a finding against me for violating good audit practices. I would expect you to know that as somebody who's been, as you said, a fiscal agent for the county in the past. So the answer is we are making our way out of the McCard report. The good old days that you're so eager to go back to were days when the McCard report reported that we were at risk of fraud. We're no longer at risk of fraud. We are now healing the city's fiscal problems.
Oh, thank you so much. Good question and a very responsive answer. So I believe it's Weber's turn to ask Councillor Vigil Koppler a question.
Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you. Councillor Vigil Koppler, you have been a registered lobbyist for the Realtors Association, and I'm wondering if there were any votes that came to the governing body that you should have recused yourself on when it came to issues of the interests of the realtors, for example, the short-term rental ordinance that you voted against, your position on not thinking that renters are equal to homeowners and that only homeowners make good homes for people, that owning a home is an American dream, but being a renter is a second-class citizen. Is that reflected in the work you did as a lobbyist for the realtors?
Thank you for the question. I am going to say this, and that is that you are continuing to distort the truth. You are terribly out of line with this. But I will say that as a lobbyist for the Realtors Association, it's the New Mexico Realtors Association, where we have statewide issues such as copper theft. We have statewide issues that we keep track of on behalf of New Mexicans across the state. The issues that you refer to, the short-term rental ordinance, that is not a lobbyist issue. That is not something that I lobbied for. That's not a statewide issue. City of Santa Fe is unique in that we offer short-term rentals. And I have always been a supporter of short-term rentals, but the recent changes, some of them, were not good for our community. They were very punitive. And what we see now in the enforcement of that, there have been problems created by that, whereby the city planning and land use director approved a short-term rental under the old rules, even though it was a permit that was issued in March under the old rules, and it should have been under the new rules. These are things that I stand for, and that is treating people fairly. If we are going to make rules, we need to follow them. So I don't have any regrets about being a lobbyist for the New Mexico Association of Realtors. If you knew what the New Mexico Association of Realtors stood for, you would not probably have made those statements, because they are statewide New Mexico issues that are pulled together by very
15
knowledgeable,
seconds.
intelligent legislators that introduce legislation that we follow and help them lobby for. None of those issues were city issues. And so, no, I shouldn't have recused myself. But if I had, I would state a reason for doing so. You recuse yourself from many things on the city without saying what your conflict is.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So heated questions and good answers from everyone. Thanks for that. So Bernadette, where does that leave us?
That leaves us with closing statements.
So we'll each give, each candidate, we'll go ahead and move that to 2 minutes. Is that okay?
2 or 3?
For you
Yep.
to communicate what you think would be most relevant and most important to the viewing audience. So we'll give you 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we'll start with Councilman Koppler.
Thank you. First, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's always good to be able to express who you are and what you will do. And I will tell you that I believe that I will be the best mayor that Santa Fe has had in a long time. And the reason for that is because I have a great deal of experience. I have experience on the city council. I have mentored people along the way in my positions. I have seen good people that have managed the city council, the city professionally. And there are items from those administrations that I will put back into Santa Fe and go forward. I have a great deal of public service experience, and I will lend that to moving Santa Fe forward. I don't believe that in this city that we are better off now than we were 4 years ago. I contend we're worse off. We have made such divisiveness we have created divisiveness in our community right now, and I think that's because of the lack of leadership of the current mayor. But I will tell you right now, the biggest issue that I think the city faces are its lack of fiscal accountability. And the mayor's right, the audit isn't released, but usually a leader will say, well, the city's in good shape or something like that. The city has managed its money well, and you will see that when this audit comes out. There are statements that he can make, that he didn't make, that are noticeably absent. So I'm going to leave it to all of you on this Zoom meeting and all of you watching. When this audit gets released, take a look. I will urge you, please take a look and then ask yourself the question again. Are we better off now than we were 4 years ago? Are we better off now than we were a year ago? I will take this city and give it a new positive direction. I will develop a trust that we have lost, and I will provide the leadership that this city needs at this point and continue it on. And I ask for your vote, joanneforsantafe.com. Go and look at my positions. Go and look at more detail than what we had time to do here today. I want to be the next mayor. I ask for your vote.
Thank you, Councilor Vigil-Koppler. So we will move on here to Mayor Ellen Weber. Closing statements, 2 minutes.
Thank you very, very much. And thanks for this forum. Thanks to the Santa Fe Democratic Party for putting it on, and for everyone who participated, listened, and added their voices. I've really enjoyed this exchange, and I do believe it frames the issues very significantly. I believe in the progressive values of the Democratic Party and the progressive values of Santa Fe, and I think they're reflected in my administration. I think it's the most progressive administration in Santa Fe history. We have championed the cause of people who need help. We've championed the cause of sustainability. We've championed the cause of our young people, our seniors. We've looked after our natural resources. We've built housing, and we've advanced people through this horrible pandemic. I think you cannot talk about the mayor's race without talking about the response that we've made to the pandemic. People have lost their lives, they've lost their incomes, they've lost their businesses, they've lost some things they've worked on for their whole lives. And now, thanks to the leadership of this administration, we're coming out the other side. We've taken care of each other, we've worked together, we've stood together, we've prayed together. And I'm more committed than ever to continuing that work in a second term. I'm very encouraged by the hundreds of people who have endorsed me and the expressions of support I've gotten during this campaign. You know, there's an old dicho that says, tell me who you ride with and I'll tell you who you are. Well, I'm proud to ride with Senator Ben Ray Lujan and Martin Heinrich, Representatives Linda Serrato, Andrea Romero, Susan Herrera, Cristina Ortez, Brittany Barreras, and Roger Montoya. And on the city council, 3 members have already endorsed me, Councilor Abeyta, Councilor Romero-Worth, and Councilor Cassett. I've been endorsed by Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, the Carpenters Union, the Animal Protection League, IATSE, and more. The most important endorsement, of course, is yours, people of Santa Fe. This is an election where what's on the ballot is the direction of our city for the future. Do you want to keep going in a progressive direction that supports the values of our party and our community? Or do you want to go backward? Do you want to go to a more conservative vision of Santa Fe? You know, the question, are you better off than you are 4 years ago, was asked by Ronald Reagan. That's an old Republican trick that my opponent is recycling. Let's not fall for it. Let's not go backward. Let's not suddenly turn into Republicans. Let's be the proud Democratic Party we are. Let's continue with our progressive vision for the future of Santa Fe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary Ellen Weber. All right, so looks like we're getting there. I guess we're just going to close out then.
Yes, I would like to go ahead and say thank you. This was not an easy forum, and I think that we had a very enjoyable for most of us. I mean, technically, I was just really interested in the answers. They were meaty, they were substantive, they weren't always easy. And I just want to say thank you to our candidates, incumbent Mayor Alan Weber, Councilor Vigil Koppler. I'm really sorry that Mrs. Alexis Martinez Johnson decided not to come using some ridiculous excuse. It is a nonpartisan election, but it is hosted by the proud Democratic Party of Santa Fe County, and we would have shown her the best respect that we show to everyone else. She was the one claiming the partisan accusations, and those were posted in the chat for everyone to see. We had over 50 questions that people sent us, and Greg Sonnenfeld, our vice chair from 3D, did a fabulous job of categorizing these. We spent over 3 hours, your 3 co-hosts and Mr. Sonnenfeld, going through these. We worked, for several hours fine-tuning the questions so that we could present to you, our viewing audience, what we believed were substantial issues. We know we didn't cover all of the issues, but we feel like we gave it a good shot. If you have friends or family who missed the event and wish to see it, it will be posted on the Democratic Party's Facebook Live group, and we'll also get it on our website. This is your host, Bernadette Baduro, the chair of the Santa Fe Democratic Party, and it has been a privilege to be with you here tonight. I want to thank all of you for attending, and I ask you to please stay healthy and please get out there and vote. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.